Welcome to Married to History, where we try to be informative, entertaining, and family friendly.
Aloha, I'm Christopher. I have a fancy piece of paper on my wall that says that I know more about history than most people do.
I'm Shirley. I'm a homeschool mom that relies on good curriculum, Christopher, and Hamilton the musical to teach our kids history. Hey, honey, I have a history.
I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed Hamilton. Not so much because I thought it was an excellent musical, but because of all the questions that you and the kids have brought to me about it.
The girls, while they were doing their government history class, what was it? Oh, they were learning about the Federalist Papers, and they're like, this book says that what's his face wrote 8 Federalist Papers, but Hamilton says he only wrote 5. So then they had to go and look it up and see which was correct.
And that is
the musical is correct, by the way.
That is the dream. The idea that, they see 2 pieces of information, or rather 2 sources with conflicting information, and so you do some more research to try to get a better idea as to which one, if either, is correct.
Yep.
That's the fun of it.
Yep, I think they did have fun with that. All right, honey, I have a history question for you.
I love history questions.
This is actually one from Tertius. He had this question a long time ago, and
Is this the one that he's been whining and complaining about? Okay.
Yes, anxiously anticipating. Okay.
This better be good.
So he wants to know about the Great Famine of Hungary, because he figures that must be where they got the name. It's an audio format. They can't hear you face palming and...
All right, so I will have to admit, I do not know where the Hungarian culture gets its name, but it has nothing to do with being hungry.
But you don't know.
I know that kids...
You don't know this.
It's not... They don't speak English, so it's not about being hungry. So I know that this is something that kids love to do, is to make jokes about countries like Hungary and Turkey.
And Chile.
And Chile, yes. And I want to say there's at least a couple of others, but I can't think of what they are off the top of my head. But yes, no, Turkey is not named after turkeys. Chile, okay, I can't be sure, but to the best of my knowledge, it's named after chili peppers. And Hungary is not named after the act of being hungry. Like I said earlier, I actually do not know where Hungarian culture gets its name.
Okay. What do you know about Hungary?
Hungary has actually been a larger player in world events than a lot of people might think of for today. So today, to the best of my knowledge, Hungary is... you can't say that Hungary is a third world country, because they're not, but they're not a top player, and I do not believe that they are a significant player in most things.
Okay.
That said, though, they have been important to history. The Hungarians were the ones that made sure that that largely are responsible for the Ottoman Empire not being able to expand any further into Europe than it did. The Hungarians, if I remember correctly, are also largely responsible for the Mongolian Empire to not spread as far into Europe as it did. Okay. The Hungarians were key, or the Kingdom of Hungary that existed at the time, were key players in stopping that from happening. Amongst other things, the Hungarians were the ones that helped Vlad Dracul be able to defend his kingdom from the Ottomans.
The Ottomans, okay. Sorry, forgive me. Does Hungary still exist today?
Hungary still exists today.
Because Europe has changed a lot.
Europe has changed a lot, but Hungary still exists today.
It's still there.
Its borders have changed a lot during the last century alone, but no, Hungary still exists. So once upon about 100 years ago, it was, actually it's a little over 100 years now. It was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but after World War I, Hungary was created as an independent nation, and has been an independent nation, to the best of my knowledge, without much interruption since that time. Okay. When I say without much interruption, I do not believe that they were ever conquered by the Nazis or by the Soviet Union. Oh. They were, or at least their government was, willing allies of Nazi Germany during the Second World War, and then when they were overrun by the Soviet Union at the tail end of of World War II, they became part of the Iron Curtain. But they have more or less existed as an independent country, as a fairly autonomous country, as a individual people, shall we say, an individual country, an individual culture, and they still exist today. Yes.
So why were they split from Austria, though?
They were split from Austria largely because, and this is something that a lot of people don't really think about, Austria-Hungary was not a unified culture. It was made up of lots and lots, and I mean lots of different people. Arguably the largest, with the exception of maybe the Roman Empire, the largest group of most diversified people still under one banner or under one king, one ruler at the time.
Okay.
So you had Austrians, you had Hungarians, you had Slavs, you had Croats, you had Bosnians, you had Serbians.
That was all together?
All the different ethnicities and cultures that still exist in Southeast Europe today.
Yeah,
they were all still there during the reign of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And it was this lack of unity, this lack of harmony between the different cultures, that is one of the things that was a major contributor into some of the problems that lead up to World War One.
Okay.
This is, believe it or not, also, this is one of the reasons why a certain young man decided not, when World War One broke out, decided not to enlist in the Austro-Hungarian army, the country that he was born into, that he had citizenship of, but instead decided to go to Germany and enlist in their army, because he did not want to fight for an army that fought with and for such a wide diversity of bad peoples.
We're talking about Mustache Man, aren't we?
We're talking about Hitler, yes. He was Austrian by birth. He was a subject of the Austro-Hungarian Empire through most of his life.
And he was protesting the diversity of his country.
Because of his lack of a fondness for the diversity of his nation, yes, he decided to cross the border and sign up for the German army instead.
That sounds fake. That's something that like someone would write in a fiction story. He's protesting the diversity of his country, so he goes and becomes a dictator and well-known genocide proponent.
Like all things in history, it's certainly possible that is not the reasons.
Okay.
But in the many things that I have read over the years, this is a theory that I firmly believe.
Wow.
I have no doubt that he wanted to. He renounced his Austrian citizenship and would rather have been a German.
Wow. Wait, did his parents go too? How old was he? When did this happen?
This happened when he was a young man. I don't remember exactly what age he was, because I don't remember his birthday off the top of my head, so I have no idea how old he was when he joined the army.
But he was an adult.
Yeah, he was an adult.
He was enlisting in the military.
I'm trying to remember. I do not remember this. I want to say his parents might not have even been alive, because I think he was raised by a grandpa. I don't remember now.
Okay.
I'm not recalling anything about his bringing up, other than he wasn't overly fond of whoever the male figure in his life was.
He had daddy issues?
Yeah, whether that was because of his daddy or because of his grandpa or because of somebody else who raised him. That there's an echo of that in my mind, but I can't hammer down any details.
Okay, that's fine. That
Forgive
doesn't
me.
matter.
Hitler's youth is not one of the things that I read about at my leisure.
Right. That would probably be a red flag if you did.
There's nothing wrong with knowing more about him. There are plenty of people that know more about him than I do, and that's not a bad thing.
I know. Anyways, so Austria-Hungary, very diverse. World War One.
At the end of World War One, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is split apart.
Wait, why?
Because of the multiple different ethnic groups.
But who splits it?
Who splits it? The victors do. So France, Britain, the United States. No, Russia, I don't believe shows up. Because after the Russian Revolution, none of the other countries recognized the Red government. A slight deviation from topic. In the Russian Revolution, the Tsar abdicates, and there are two different parliaments, if you will, fighting for control of Russia, or what will eventually be called the Soviet Union. There's the White Congress and the Red Congress. I'm having trouble remembering what their names are. I think one is called the Duma and the other is called the Soviet, but I might be getting those mixed up. Anyway, most of Europe recognized the White Duma or the White Congress. They call this because of the colors, not because all the people were white.
I didn't make a racist joke.
But the Soviets, the red group, they were much more in power and control. So you could argue that it's semi-like Taiwan and China shortly after the Communist Revolution in China ends, in that, all right, there are these two groups. Half the countries are saying that this is the legitimate group. The other half of the countries are saying that, no, this other one is the legitimate group. And so people weren't agreeing on what the legitimate government of Russia was at the time. And if I remember correctly, Russia wasn't even invited. I could be wrong.
To the meeting, to
the Paris Peace Conference, to the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, that, amongst other things, split up the Austro-Hungarian Empire into multiple different countries.
What's the benefit? Like, why... We're ending a world war. We're signing peace treaties. Why did splitting up this empire matter?
So the reasons for splitting up this empire, I have to be honest, I've never been quite too sure on. Like, I have a couple of ideas, but I don't know that I've ever read anything definitive to tell me if these, or to convince me if these are the reasons or not. So the main reasons of which I'm aware is, number one, prevent the Austro-Hungarian Empire from becoming a power again. After all, they were, even though they weren't given full blame for this thing, they were the one that started this thing. Or rather, it was the desire of people in that area to want to have their own independent nations instead of being part of either the dying Ottoman Empire or the expanding Austro-Hungarian Empire. The wanting to have their own nations, that kind of led to World War I becoming what it was. That was the match that started the fire.
Okay.
So
none of this sounds familiar at all.
Well, that's because not too many people talk about this. The big thing that most people study, or most people learn about World War I, is Germany's fault. There. Well, Austria-Hungary doesn't really get nearly any of the attention at all when any studies of World War I are being done.
I just know something about an Austrian prince got shot.
Yes, the Austrian...
I was right?
Yes, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, he was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. He was shot. It was his assassination that started it off. That was the match.
Okay, I still don't understand how that... I don't know. Sorry, go ahead. I don't know anything.
Okay, so... going back to the question that you asked me, so one reason the empire is broken up is because, all right, don't want Austria-Hungary to be a powerful force to start trouble anymore.
But did they start trouble?
Arguably, if they could, well, yeah, they could have started trouble.
But did they?
Okay, so I want to be clear. Are you asking me, did they cause trouble before World War I, or did they cause trouble after? Oh yeah, Austria-Hungary caused lots of trouble before World War I.
Okay.
The Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire fighting over that region of Europe, southeastern Europe, for centuries, fighting over that area for influence, for dominance, for control of the area, arguing about which people should be given independence or who should control or have influence over the countries that were getting independence. Yeah, the three of them had been causing trouble in that area for centuries. And prior to that, throughout much of Europe's history, Austria has been the cause of some trouble, I guess you could say, here and there. More than a couple of wars that happened in Europe's history are because Austria isn't getting along with France or Britain or Spain or Italy after it's formed. Okay.
So they contributed to the general instability of Europe leading up to the World War.
So yes, and in particular because of the diversity.
Got it.
So, and it's because of that diversity. That's the second reason why they decided to break up the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Because there's all these different groups of people, and after all, it's the knowing that they wanted their own nations that kind of started this whole thing, that they decided, all right, we're going to break them up. We're going to give all these people their own nations. But as we've seen from history since then, their efforts in Versailles didn't really work out because, as is often the case, all right, they had a good intention, arguably, with this, but it didn't go far enough, or rather, it didn't satisfy all parts. So Czechoslovakia, for example, is one of the nations that's created out of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Got it.
Czechoslovakia does not exist anymore today.
Does it?
No,
it's broken again.
It was broken up again into two different nations shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Czech Republic, shortly after the end of the Cold War. Yeah, today it exists as the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Right.
Yugoslavia is another example. Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. It's been broken up into... I don't even know if I know all of the nations that make up what used to be Yugoslavia off the top of my head. So I might be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at a map of this area, or rather since I focused on an area of this part of the world. But I believe what used to be Yugoslavia is broken up into parts of Albania. No, Albania was already an independent nation, so that wouldn't be included.
I have no idea.
But Bosnia, Serbia, no, Serbia was an independent nation too. I don't remember, but Yugoslavia doesn't exist. It's been broken up into other countries as well. And then the boundaries of Romania and I believe Bulgaria too, and I don't think Hungary's had any border changes, but they might have. Those all have changed from time to time as well because of this idea that these people. And modern examples, the same thing has been going on in the former Soviet Union. Ukraine is an independent nation now. Moldova is an independent nation now. Belarus is an independent nation now. Finland was actually an example. Finland was part of the Russian Empire for a long time. That
surprises me.
They get their independence. I don't remember if Versailles gave them their independence or if they got it before that.
Because isn't Finland part of Scandinavia?
Finland is part of what we consider Scandinavia, but it would have been part of the Russian Empire for centuries. So yeah, this thing that started, and largely this is all based on the French Revolution.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know we're going back.
You're going farther back.
I'm gonna try to cinch this up real quick. One of the great successes, arguably the longest lasting legacy of the French Revolution, is that when Napoleon takes over and creates the French Empire and then conquers basically all of Europe, the seed that gets planted and sticks around is nationalism. The idea that people should not.
Nero's fault?
Nero? Who said
Not
Nero?
Nero. I said Nero. I meant Napoleon. I was thinking Napoleon. You said Napoleon. I thought I said Napoleon.
All right. If I did say Nero, I apologize.
No. Sorry.
Right. So yeah, the French Revolution plants nationalism, and Napoleon's empire is the one that allows this idea of nationalism to be spread around all through Europe. So after
how does nationalism benefit Napoleon and
nationalism doesn't. Okay.
Sorry.
So nationalism by itself does not benefit Napoleon. But the idea, the whole reason that Napoleon is able to come to power is because of the French Revolution, which was because of nationalism. So this idea of what nationalism is does get planted around, does get spread around throughout his empire. Not because that was his goal, but it's like a side effect.
That was the culture that he was
spreading. Sure, you could call it a cultural contamination, if you will. So after Napoleon is finally gone and done, they exile him for the second time. There's no worry about him coming back. At the Council of Vienna, the victors of Europe, including Prussia, Britain, Spain, all the other countries they get, including Austria, get together, and what they decide to do is, all right, we're going to put everything back the way it was. All the borders are going to go back to the way it was, and in particular, all of the royals who the French kicked out during Napoleon's reign or before, we're going to put them all back where they were too. But a lot of the people in these countries, having had that infection of nationalism, a lot of them say, we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want to go back.
We don't want them to come back. We want to embrace this idea of nationalism. This is why Italy ends up becoming unified. It's largely this idea that they don't want the royals to come back, even though they do end up embracing a king before it's all over. The same thing goes with Germany. There's the idea of forming a German nation that comes out of this being. And in the southeast, especially as the Ottoman Empire continues to be in decline, all these people who, the old masters, who were never one of them, the Ottoman Turks were never the Slavs or the Croats. In fact, they were very mean to these people. With the old guard going away, they want to establish their own new nations and not be under the thumb of anybody else.
That makes sense.
But as the Ottoman Empire is declining, well, Austria and Russia want to expand and gain more influence. That's the old game that has always existed in Europe.
There's a power vacuum, and somebody wants to fill it.
The idea of empire has always existed in Europe. I mean, after all, the French Empire, it's failed. All the old empires, well, now they want to take advantage of the situation. So yeah, it's this idea of nationalism, of people wanting to have their own countries, their own governments, where they speak their own culture, have their own money, have their own government, have their own elections, whatever the cases might be. This idea of nationalism is what arguably leads to the spark that starts World War I.
Okay.
Now, there are other factors, of course, but, and again, going back to what I believe is the original question, it's that same idea, that nationalism, which we can trace back to at least as early as the French Revolution, is one of the reasons for why Hungary is an independent nation today, instead of continuing to be part of some larger empire.
Okay. So what are they today, are they a democratic republic? Are they under a king?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do not know what their government system is. I do not believe they are still under a monarchy. If they do, it's probably a figurehead monarchy. To the best of my knowledge, they have a representative, or at least I don't know. I think they have a representative, or at least a mock representative government, but I'm not sure.
Okay, because
during the Cold War, there were more than a couple of attempts to get rid of the communist government and replace it with non-communist governments, or at least to get rid of the pro-Russian communist governments and replace it with pro-Hungarian communist governments.
Yeah.
And I know that I've read about those in the past, but I'm lost on the details right now.
Oh, okay.
But all of this is kind of talking about modern day Hungary instead of what was the unanswered question? The original was, why are they called Hungary?
Was there a great famine and that's how they got their name?
No, I do not believe that. Well, I cannot say for sure that I know the sources of the Hungarian culture and their name. I am fairly certain that it had nothing to do with a famine in the land.
Do their people eat a lot? Is their culture very dependent on food?
Not that I'm aware of. More than any other culture. So you say it's their culture eats a lot. I don't think there's any culture that eats a lot. There are people that eat a lot.
Well, very rich foods are more important to some cultures than others.
I have no idea what Hungarian delicacy is. To the best of my knowledge, I've never eaten at a Hungarian restaurant. And the only person that I'm aware of, that I know of, that I've met who was Hungarian, he didn't offer me any food. We just sat down and we talked for a bit.
When did you meet a Hungarian person?
When I was in Hawaii.
In Hawaii? Was he a tourist?
No, he was a resident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's so random.
It was. Not the type of person that you expect to run into in Hawaii, but it was cool.
I mean, everyone goes to Hawaii, but I don't know. Can you tell me anything else about Hungary? Literally anything you could tell me would be new, because I genuinely did not know with confidence that it was still a country today.
Yes,
it's not one that I hear about on the public stage a lot.
It is still a country today. It's part of the UN, and unless I'm mistaken, it is no longer a pro-Russia country and is part of the pro-West countries.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar with any notable roles it has in any of the decisions or going-ons of what's happening today. Okay. I don't even know where they stand on the current conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. I don't know.
Okay. Wait, the rescuers.
Yes.
Was she from Hungary?
She might have been. She was definitely from that area.
She had
she was from a
German-ish accent.
It definitely wasn't. She definitely wasn't from Germany. She was definitely from a southeastern European nation.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Hungary, then I'd be inclined to say it was No, I don't think it was Romanian.
She wasn't.
I'm inclined to say that she was Hungarian or she was Bulgarian.
What's the difference? Obviously, they're different countries.
Hungary is further to the north.
Okay, that's...
I don't think they share a border.
Oh, that's what I needed to know.
I believe Romania is in between them. Or, well, there could be different countries now in between them. At one point in time, Romania and Yugoslavia were in between them.
Okay. I really should have a map, because I have no idea where any of these countries are.
So I have a modern day up-to-date map on that I include in my World War I lessons to my students, so they can see how things have changed from the Congress of Vienna to before World War I to after the Treaty of Versailles and then to today. But yeah, I don't remember what all the countries are and where they are on that map off the top of my head. It's probably one of the reasons why I put the map in there, so that we can look at it instead of me having to memorize it.
Okay, so Miss Bianca, the female rescuer from the Rescuers movies, she is Hungarian.
Okay.
Because she's voiced by Ava Gabor, and Ava Gabor is Hungarian?
Didn't know that. Cool.
Okay, so I do know something about Hungary.
So there's something that Hungary has contributed to culture, to the great world. Because The Rescuers is great stuff.
It really is. That was a great movie.
I'm kind of surprised that's one they haven't tried to relaunch.
Oh, just give it time. Disney's going to relaunch everything. Or not necessarily relaunch it,
but give it time. It's been a long time.
Live action. There was a big gap between the original Rescuers and the sequel.
And I wonder, not as long as there's been from the Rescuers Down Under to today. And I wonder if they did, would they try to do it live action? I'd rather they stick with a cartoon for that one, I think.
Well, they would probably do, quote, live action, but it would be like the live action Lion King where it's just CGI. But it's more realistic animation.
Still, I think that one would be better sticking with cartoons.
I don't think they should relaunch any of them.
Well, so I rephrase.
I don't like this
I'm
live
not
action
advocating
trend.
the relaunching. I'm advocating for, I would love to see another story, another adventure for them.
They could do a series of Rescuers. Like, they could do an animated kids series.
They
that
can
would
even
be
put
cute.
them in charge of a ranger team.
A ranger team? I'm not getting it.
The Rescue Rangers.
Oh, crossover. Got it.
Are you ashamed of yourself?
I am so ashamed of myself.
I'm kind of ashamed of myself for the bad pun, but then you didn't take it, so I feel better about myself now.
I'm so happy I could give that to you.
This is why you are the perfect companion for me.
I'm gonna cut that part out where you said this is why you're perfect, and I'm gonna play that on repeat.
Go for it.
Okay, do you know anything else about Hungary or why their soldiers were so hungry? I don't know.
What? Why are you still on that?
It's called a callback.
You realize that this is probably... I've never been to Hungary, but I dare say that this is probably the joke that Hungarians get, that they think every time, every American who's ever come to our country thinks they're the first that has ever told this joke. And you've told it how many times in the space of not even an hour?
True.
Not even half an hour yet.
I mean, Europeans just hate Americans in general, right? So this is why...
It's not like we don't give them cause.
Exactly. I mean, sorry.
I know. I know how bitter they are. We can't all successfully get away from Europe.
From England?
No, from Europe.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to say? I think we're done.
Specifically about Hungary, only that in a particular World War II game that I like to play, I like to include the Hungarians in my empire because, at least according to the rules of this video game, they have an awful lot of aluminum, which is highly necessary for my war machine.
Well, now you need to look it up. Is that like their number one natural resource?
I don't know. It's a video game where I play as the bad guys and I conquer the world, so...
How accurate in general is this video game? Did they do their research?
I think they did their research, yes. I've encountered a number of historical scenarios that are accurate, or at least that have the sprinklings of accuracy in it. Then
I'm going to believe that Hungary is a large exporter of aluminum.
Okay.
I'm going to say it as if it's fact.
Go for it. I somehow doubt that the people of Hungary are going to sue you for claiming that they have a lot of aluminum.
It's just another reason to hate me. That's fine. All right, thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, then please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to hear a future episode with more information about today's topic, contact us on Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Married to History Pod.
Also, please contact us if you have a silly question idea or if there's something from history that you would love to learn about.
Just be sure to specify in your message if it's silly or serious, because we don't want to treat a genuine quest for knowledge like a joke.
Talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye. My boss said that she was introducing a new employee that we had today, and one of the last things that she said before walking away was, "Oh, and a good podcast, by the way."
Oh, so she actually listened.
She supposedly listened to an episode or two.
That's awesome.
Very happy to hear her say good podcast instead of, you probably shouldn't say things like that because even though you're right, it's going to get you fired.
You haven't said anything too controversial.
I would hope not, but this day and age, something that is safe today will be controversial before I can finish the sentence.
Yeah, that's possible.